Huge public sell-off. NHS hospitals are told sell or close. The vultures are circulating. I'm your host, Matthew Moody, and welcome to this week's edition of Property TV, where we go into detail on what is happening with the NHS and the great big sale that's on place. Get your piece of NHS land today. Are you interested in HMOs? Or maybe you like the idea of rent to rent? If so, you need to be at our expo on the 28th and 29th of April in central London. The cream of the crop will be there, giving you pertinent advice and strategies of how to get going in the HMO market. So whether you are new or even a seasoned landlord, you're going to pick up hints and tips at this expo. We're going to have over 30 exhibitors showcasing the best in the HMO and rent-to-rent sector, along with a selection of amazing speakers that you will find on our website. So we'll keep them under wraps right now because the lineup is absolutely amazing and I'm staggered by the people that are coming. But in order to find out more, you're going to have to go to our website, click on the link and grab your free ticket, because yes, this is entirely free. So if you have any interest at all in the HMO or rent-to-rent markets, get yourself along to the expo on the 28th and 29th of April. I'll see you there. And there are massive prizes awaiting for those people that turn up on the day. I'm talking huge. Be there. Hello and welcome back to Property TV. Now do subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, then why not, and what are you waiting for? It is the only way to make sure you get notifications when we release these scintillating episodes. Okay, so for everyone expecting the next rundown of the top 10 housing ministers, put that thought on hold, because we have something far more important to talk to you about today: the sell-off of the NHS. Dun dun dun! I thought I'd add that sound effect in because sound is not our thing here. So all of us are aware of the fact that the NHS is in severe financial trouble and has been for some time. In fact, the 1962 Hospital Act that was set up many years ago has never really been updated. So this shows you how long the problem has been going on for. A review was commissioned a few years back. And this was headed up by Lord Naylor, who has had some experience in the health sector, as he was the chief executive of one of the large London hospitals. Interesting fact, to do a review, first of all, you need a review of the evidence before you do a review. And this is quite an interesting document. This was produced by the King's Fund. So not sure what they got paid for this, but it's an interesting piece of work and commissioned by the Department of Health to help Lord Naylor on his review. So 53 pages of goodness, and I quote, "They reviewed a rapid review of white and grey literature, as well as, and this does amuse me enormously, a small number of conversations with people that actually develop estate strategies and projects," because this is all around how the NHS can actually utilise the estates that it has. A report came out then from Lord Naylor in March 2017, and here's the big tome. Naylor effectively is supporting the Department of Health target to release $2 billion of assets for reinvestment and to deliver land for 26,000 new homes. The problem is that the way in which the NHS is funded is through what's known as sustainability and transformation plans. The STB capital requirements, we're told, are around 10 billion. So interestingly, they want to release 2 billion worth of funds, but they've got 10 billion worth of capital needed. Bit of a difference there in terms of numbers. However, they've also got a little maintenance backlogs of just 5 billion, which is, you know, just a wee piss in the ocean in terms of maintenance that's out there. And it's probably actually an underestimated figure. Naylor was given this review by the NHS to find out what could they do to actually take all of these assets that are on board and make it something better, so that actually hospitals could start to fund themselves. So one of the things he's recommending is a new NHS property board. Rather than individual trusts and hospitals deciding their own kind of strategy in terms of what they're doing, bring it all together under one umbrella and let the big NHS property board make some key strategic decisions in terms of what they go forward should be. NHS, if you didn't know, occupies over 1,200 sites in the UK and has over 6,500 hectares of land. with buildings of a gross internal area of 26 million square metres. So they have quite a bit of estate business going on. In addition to that, we obviously have GP practices and obviously independent providers. Now the problem is with the NHS estate is that it is getting old. 18% of their stock is actually pre-1948, which means a lot of those buildings are potentially getting somewhat worse for wear and are perhaps not fit for purpose now. As well as that, they've got a further 20% that was built between 65 and 84. And we all know the kind of building that went on in the 60s through the 70s wasn't necessarily the best, was it? With capital expenditure and investment being around 4 billion a year, there's some serious issues that need doing. And the population is estimated to grow to 60.5 million by 2030, which is a rise of 6 million or 9.92% from 2015. And in addition to that, people over 75, that whole population is going to grow by 50%. So a huge burden on the NHS, and hence why it has to do something about basically moving forward. So how much land do they have? Well, that depends on who you talk to. So in 2013, Monitor, a big company that does a lot of monitoring, they estimated the opportunity of land disposal at 7.5 billion. In 2014, Savills estimated that 300,000 homes could potentially be built on surplus or underutilised NHS land. And in 2015, the King's Fund actually estimated that 0.7 billion in capital could be released from land which has already been declared surplus. One of the issues is that hospitals are not necessarily the best people or the best people placed to actually sell off property. But what they're going to do is incentivise hospitals, and this is where the subject gets very thorny and controversial, because what they're going to do is say, if you sell a piece of land for 100,000, then we'll allow you to take 200,000 back as capital into your hospital. Now what does this mean? Potentially it means that some land could be sold at a discount to get rid of that land in order to get the capital back. Some people argue. Other people argue that actually most sane businessmen are actually going to sell the land at a higher value. However, one thing we can say is people involved in the public sector are not always making the best decision. The Ministry of Defence lost billions of pounds in a bungling property scheme where they sold off 55,000 Marriott quarters at rock bottom prices of 1.66 billion in '96 because they wrongly believed that actually the whole property market was going to crash. As we all know, it went up, 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 and they lost about 4.2 billion. So that really means that there are some significant issues here. However, if the Naylor Report is actually implemented and goes through, and it looks very likely it will, then getting rid of NHS inefficient buildings alone is probably going to save them about £500 million a year. And that's going to help fund some of those backlog repairs. However, is everybody in favour of this? Not necessarily, because what it means is that developers are going to get on this very, very quickly. This whole 2-for-1 offer is going to be very popular. So if a hospital can get a 2-for-1 offer, they're going to get rid of land very, very quickly. It also means that hospitals really don't have an option. If they don't sell land, they won't get further capital funding. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do they sell? Don't they sell? Do they sell? Don't they sell? Cash, no cash, cash, no cash. It's very, very simple really in terms of from a hospital point of view, they have to move forward. And there are obviously a few critics. Deborah Harrington of the National Health Action Party says,
"It's simply not true that all of this land and all of these buildings are surplus to requirements. The truth is that this is the biggest ever drive to sell off the assets of the NHS in its history."
Naylor Report is an outline to sell off the NHS, hospitals, clinics and other NHS property as coalescing the sites of the purchasers. Theresa May has given us a huge clue as to how her government would finance improvements to NHS services, and they're absolutely scandalous.
Under the Tories, hospitals are crumbling. The Tory response is to now sell off buildings and land, with no explanation of when the NHS will see a penny piece of the proceeds.
Now, we have had just out very shortly the government response to the Naylor Review. You can go and read it online. It's being published, it's out there right now. And effectively they've taken on board most of the recommendations from the Naylor Report and are going to implement the majority of them. Is this an opportunity for the NHS to actually make a bit of cash and reinvest it back into what is obviously much needed services? And we think it may well be. The issue is, what are we going to end up with all of these developers? Are we going to end up with more and more of these big tower blocks, or are we going to actually see some actual genuine spaces created for multifamily communities where people from all walks of life can actually get involved and live in communities in former NHS sites? All we can do is try and wait and see what this hot little football potato of the NHS is actually going to deliver to us in the end. Thank you very much for watching Property TV once more, and remember, if you're not part of the solution, you're probably an MP. Goodbye, adios for now. What do you think? Too much waffling?